You won't believe what the US just did to an AI company based in the United Emirates.
What did they do? Tell me, Mark. So, what did they do?
All right, so this is the gist. So basically, there's this company called G42, which is an AI company based in the United Emirates. They're having now actually deals with the US, well, US actually with big companies in the US, OpenAI, Microsoft, and Dell. So this is the background. So what's the deal with it in general? Well, G42 has also partnerships with Huawei, and Huawei is very famously involved with the with the Chinese military.
Yeah.
So as you can see, there are links and thereby a little bit sketchy. So the US, or let's say the CIA, flagged them as, well, I'm going to say it, dangerous. So currently they are in trouble, G42, and the partnerships with OpenAI as well as Microsoft and Dell are suspended for now, I think.
Just to climb in there. Also, for example, Huawei, especially over the last few years, were like super in the media for also they bid or they wanted to build out the 5G network in the US. But of course, then US said no, they can't do it because they have the ties to the Chinese military. So that's like really interesting. As well as in Europe, they're trying. Also, that's why the states, like was in Germany, etc., are aware or need to be aware of that as well. So just interesting. And now you see the next case in AI. But yeah, what else do we got there, Mark?
Well, so the question is, why is AI so important? So basically, the US flagged it as important as a risk of data and tech transfer because they believe that AI will be the war in the future, or this technology will bring rapid change in the future, and whoever will hold the better AI may win in the future, any war or economy reasons, etc. So as we don't know what exactly will be the impact of AI, this is a very big risk factor, and thereby you don't want to have our technology, well, the US technology, flow over to other countries.
All right, Mark, let's break it down. So, for example, I mean, we have been using lately a lot of AI models and tools. And so, just to give the audience a better overview, for example, there are a lot of different models. So, for example, the biggest one that most people know is the one of ChatGPT for an OpenAI. Now, the latest one is version ChatGPT 4. But there are also like other ones, right, which are open source, like Llama 2, which is from Facebook. And there are tons of them coming out, right? So that's like really cool. And then of course you can implement them to create chatbots. For example, you could create on your custom website, for example, let's say customer support right now. Before if you want to text with somebody, you had horrible experience because basically like you have to give something back. Before it was just automated and you had to click option 1, 2, 3, 4. And now you can make it that basically the chatbot could basically chat like a normal human being and has access to all the support data, so like the trained data or the knowledge base of what a customer support agent would have as well. So that gives it a lot of flexibility. But this is on the business side. Now let's go on the national level. What would be the downsides, Mark? What could be risk, etc.?
Ooh, let's put on the tinfoil hat. Let's go.
Let's go. It's on.
All right. So everyone has seen the latest movies on Netflix. So all the villains, well, the villains are not really villains anymore. They're basically just software, the AI. If you've seen Agent Stone with Gal Gadot, which was on Netflix, crazy, like really good movie. There was also this technology, basically an AI technology, was able to predict certain outcomes or in the future, etc. And thereby you could either gain money in terms of financial markets, or you could predict terrorist attacks, or you can evade police, depending on how you use the model. So that is one thing that you could use. Well, there's another one also, other movies where you use AI to break code or to start hacking. Since we're using technology nowadays in everything, specifically communication and social media, if some AI somehow is able to crack a lot of data and then breach the data, get all the data, now has information to all your chats, etc. That means it can also start imitating you or someone else, and because it can has voice messages, send voice messages out, it has your style of writing, even create, you can create a fake personality of you online.
So where I see it might be big problems as well as like the data sets that they're trained on, right? Because these LLMs are trained on big data sets. And for example, before ChatGPT, like ChatGPT was scraping, for example, a lot of Reddit, Twitter, etc., to get the data in. But now imagine you are building like a large language model based on data on healthcare. Okay, normally you believe or you think it, for example, it's a US based company, and all the data is like the privacy law, so basically they can only train the data and then have to basically make it that you can't identify the people, right? So now the problem is if this would be, for example, associate the company with, for example, with the Chinese government, etc., the risk is there that the data is then transferred to the Chinese government or etc. So that's like the biggest problems if you have these huge data sets, because these models need to be trained on huge data sets. That might be a data leak problem. So that's a big problem there. What I'm seeing as well, yeah, of course, I mean, you were talking in the other podcasts, right? The more data you have, the easier it is to copy somebody. So, I mean, you've seen all the episode between, I think, Joe Rogan as well. Like you can have basically an AI Joe Rogan, like having a
Oh
conversation
yeah, Steve Jobs.
with Steve Jobs. And now it's getting super like hyper realistic. Or Mr. Beast, we talked in another episode about it as well, that they are basically Mr. Beast copies or advertisement, and he was like giving away a free iPhone, etc. So I think that's one of the risks as well. But of course, on a national level, these models, could also destabilize countries in one point in time. But it also depends like who's using it, right? So for example, if you would integrate it into the U.S. government or any government, right? So because in the end, these models are great to optimize workflow, right? And we all know most of the government jobs.
Mundane tasks.
Exactly. If you want to have a safe job, go to the government. If you want to have a fast-paced job, don't go to the government, because in the end, it's like you just do it. They work relatively slow compared to startups. And there's like, if you would be optimizing this, you would need less people, obviously. But then also at the same time, if you rely on these models that might be like have backdoors or something, who knows? That might be a problem. So yeah.
I mean, I think that was my topic. What do you got for me, Lucas? What you
So,
got?
Mark, today I don't want to talk about AI in itself. I rather would like to talk about like certain effects. So first, I have
Ooh, or do
the
you want to make another
Zeigarnik
episode just
effect.
effects?
Hmm?
Ooh, you want to talk
Yeah.
in this episode, or do you want to make another episode
No,
about
I
this?
would like to talk a little bit about this because
All right,
I think in general it's quite interesting. So either the Zeigarnik effect or the Dunning Kruger effect. Which one do you want to know?
Dunning Kruger.
So, all right, Dunning Kruger effect. What is it? So, it's basically a cognitive bias in which individuals with low ability overestimate their skills, and those who have like high skills or highly skilled, they underestimate their skills. Meaning, the more expert somebody is, the more they realize the little they have or they know, right? So basically, if you start with any language, for example, in Spanish or whatever, you just have basic knowledge and you're like, man, it's not much. I'm not missing much to actually completely know the language. But the more you know it, you realize, oh, god damn it, I'm missing so much. And yeah, it's super interesting because you see it also with programmers or yeah, like all of it. So I think it's quite interesting. The
It's,
more you
this
know.
reminds me of an old Japanese proverb or Asian proverb. I don't know where it is actually from. Might be Chinese proverb. It's like that the
Always works.
exactly one of these very wise cultures. Basically, this proverb says that the master always keeps the mindset of his student. So you
Yeah,
keep learning, and the only thing that you know is that you don't know anything. That's one certainty, right? There's one thing I know that I know nothing. And I think this is one thing that is very, very wise as well, that the master says that, so that the student should also have that mentality. Because there's
yeah,
always something that you will not know, etc. So I think this
I
is
agree.
super, super cool. All right, Lucas, give the other effect. Come on, hit me
All
with
right,
the best shot.
so actually, we can make it related to AI. So the Zeigarnik effect is basically a way to optimize your productivity. Because the human brain always tries to finish a pattern, right? So, for example, you write half of a sentence, and now your brain already wants to finish that sentence, okay? Now, similar to AI tools, for example, large language models, if you text something, they will predict now what's the next outcome, okay? So they know that. But for example, now getting back to the productivity, basically, if you unfinish, for example, you have to write an essay, okay? And you don't finish with a sentence, like you finish the sentence, you just leave it half written. And then it's easier the next day just to continue doing it because your brain automatically wants to finish it. And so you don't have that at the beginning, the problem to get started again. Because when you finish the sentence, you're like, all right, how am I going to start again? But the pattern, the human brain just wants to finish that pattern, like the sentence. So that's like a really small hack how you can just like kick off your productivity. So at the end of the day, just don't finish a sentence, leave it open. The next morning, you can continue doing with that.
So I always had the problem in school a little bit different. I always started, I wrote the first sentence, but I never finished it. I guess the Zeigarnik effect did not work it for me.
But you finished the first sentence, but you didn't finish the rest. I'm talking about leaving the half sentence there.
I'm like, my schoolwork was not done. I don't know. I'm gonna next time, kids, for those who have to do work. Oh, sorry, I was trying to do the Zeigarnik effect. I was doing the rest tomorrow. Maybe that will work.
All right, Mark, do you have anything else?
No, I like it. Keep it sweet and short.
All right, everybody. I would say that's the pod. All right, guys. Peace.
Peace.